Welcome to the Autism ADHD Podcast. It's the place to be for neurodiversity affirming parents and professionals. I'm your host, Holly Blanc-Moses, the mom neurodivergent therapist. Here we chat about emotional regulation, mental health, social support, executive functioning, learning, and more, all aimed at empowering us to support kids and teens with compassion and understanding. I'm thrilled that you joined me today, and I've got some pretty exciting news to share with you. For those rock star therapists listening right now, I've created continuing education training that is tailor-made for you. Take a deep dive into cutting-edge strategies that you can start using today. The CEs you've wanted for so long are finally here. Go to hollyblancmoses.com/CE training and sign up. You are going to love it. The link is also available in the show notes. Now, if you are a parent or educator listening and you know a therapist or a psychologist that is passionate about supporting kids and teens, I greatly appreciate it if you could pass on this great news. Thanks so much again for your support, and let's get started. I wanted to start out today's episode talking about what happened last Friday afternoon. I was at work, and my 16-year-old had texted me. And the text read essentially that the front of our house was a wave pool. So I immediately called him. It turns out that the main water pipe to the house had burst about 2 feet in front of the house, and water was everywhere, full out gushing on the neighbor's yards as well. We get that water turned off, call the plumber, and they come out, and that's when I hear there's nothing we can really do until tomorrow morning. He said, we won't have any water until tomorrow. This was around 6 o'clock at this point. So I went to the store, walked straight to the water aisle. There's no water. None. At all. There is no water in the water aisle. And this is important to know. A major ice storm was predicted to hit the next day. I am located in Raleigh, North Carolina. And those of you listening in this area know it is bad. Major ice storm here. Everyone knows it. Everyone knows an ice storm is coming the next day. That's why all the water was gone. I had remembered they kept some bottled water in the cooler where the already prepared fruit was available. So I just go straight over there and I see water. And I'm not exaggerating. It felt like the heavens had opened up and it was shining down. I opened up the door to the cooler. There were 4 1-liter bottles. I was so excited. I grabbed all 4. Then all of a sudden, this woman came out, it felt like out of nowhere, like she had teleported there. And she looks at me and says, "Are you taking the last bottle of water?" My very first thought was, oh no, I don't want to be selfish. I should give her the water. I have worked so much on people pleasing, especially in the last year, trying to notice first before I open my mouth and agree to something. So I did not open my mouth right away, and there was this awkward pause. My heart was racing. I felt so anxious. And then my second thought finally came out of my mouth. It was a question. Do you have water at your house? She looked at me a bit confused and she said, yes. I said, I don't. And then I rolled into, any of neurodivergent people listening to me right now know about over explaining. I was over explaining what happened, and then they can't fix it. And then they're going to have to spot fix it tomorrow, and hopefully it'll work. And I'm not sure what time they're going to come. She didn't really want to know all the details, but I felt like I had to tell her because I had to justify why I couldn't just give her the water. And I'm sharing this story for a very specific reason. Because I do not want your child, your client, or your student to grow up to be 51 years old standing in a grocery store right before a major ice storm without water at home, desperately trying to meet this basic need. And that be the moment they finally were able to set a boundary. People pleasing looks harmless on the outside. It does. But it's actually very risky for autistic and ADHD children and teens. If you have noticed a child who might be too agreeable, who says it's fine when it's clearly not, who apologizes constantly, or who keeps getting hurt in friendships, and you're not quite sure why, I want to make some statements, and I want to make them now at the beginning of this important conversation because it gets confusing, especially in our society. People pleasing is not kindness. It's not. It is not kindness. It is not maturity. And it is not good. It's not good. For neurodivergent kids, people pleasing is often this self-protection strategy, and one that can come with serious emotional and safety risks if we don't address it early. Again, it's not about being nice. It's this protective pattern where they've learned to prioritize other people's comfort, other people's needs, to gain approval at the expense of themselves. Because they're trying so hard to avoid rejection and conflict or emotional pain. People pleasing is closely connected to masking. And it can look like agreeing to do things that you don't actually want to do. Saying yes automatically without checking in with yourself, without noticing your energy, your needs, your time. Acting like you like something when you actually don't. Hiding discomfort so others don't get upset. Taking responsibility for problems that aren't caused by them. Pretending to be less emotional or less themselves so they can be more accepted. And at its core, people pleasing is the belief, often learned really early in life, that my needs are too much, but other people's needs matter. Other people's needs matter more than mine. And autistic and ADHD kids and teens, they don't wake up one day and decide to people please. They learn it. And here's how that learning happens. The main way, I would say, number one, is fear of rejection. Many neurodivergent kids experience social rejection early and often. More than we even know, because so much happens that we don't even know about as their parents, as their therapists, as their educators. they notice these patterns. When I disagree with someone, people pull away from me. When I disagree with someone, people don't want to be with me. When I say no, people get mad at me. When I act like myself, people don't like that. They tell me I'm too much, I'm dramatic, or I'm too sensitive, whatever. When I act like myself, I lose friends. People pleasing becomes a way to get basic connection with other people. Number 2, being labeled as selfish or difficult. Oh my goodness, this was a big one for me. Neurodivergent kids are frequently told they should try harder. They should be more flexible. Again, they're too sensitive. They need to stop being so sensitive. And over time, they learn that expressing needs leads to criticism. We basically tell them what they need doesn't really matter. Or they want to make everything about them. They're being selfish. Why would they keep expressing their needs if it's only going to lead to more criticism? Another way they learn this is number 3, inconsistent or conditional acceptance. If a child feels liked only when they're compliant, only when they're helpful, only when they agree and go along with what you do, what you say, they will work really hard to stay in that role because that's the only way that they won't be bad. It's the only way they'll be even somewhat acceptable. Number 4, masking for survival. People pleasing is part of that masking. If I make others comfortable, I'll be safer. But I have to make everyone else comfortable, even if that makes me incredibly uncomfortable. It doesn't matter because my needs aren't as important because that's what I've been told. In these little tiny different ways that end up adding up to that thought and that feeling. So I want to go over some early warning signs of this dangerous people pleasing. Over apologizing, even when they've done nothing wrong. And it gets confusing because when a child or teen is apologizing and you're not sure for what, they're pre-apologizing, basically. They're trying to shield themselves because they feel like, well, I'm going to do something wrong anyway. I always do. Almost everything I do is wrong. So I'm just going to pre-apologize. Another sign is saying it's okay when they're clearly hurt or overwhelmed. And I think people mean well. Adults will, you're fine, but they're not fine. And they learn that they're supposed to say they're fine even when they're not. Another warning sign is that struggling to say no. In my example, this is a pretty big thing. We have no water and an ice storm is coming. Another warning sign is taking the blame just to keep the peace because you want to lessen the possibility of conflict. You hide your exhaustion. You hide your sensory discomfort because you don't want to make other people uncomfortable. So you just don't say anything. Letting others always choose everything. The games, the activities, the rules. They are happy for anything anyone gives them. Any attention they get is something. Another early warning sign is this feeling responsible for other people's emotions. If a child never disagrees, never says no, never sets boundaries, never expresses a limit like they're too tired or this is too much, That's not emotional maturity. That is a giant red flag. Now, you may be thinking, depending on how your day is going, Holly, I would love for my child or student to be more people pleasing. That would make life better. Knowing what I know with my own lived experience, 28 years supporting autistic and ADHD kids and teens, I would 100% rather have a child tell me they disagree with me or tell me no than always agree. It is far more dangerous for a child to feel like they cannot tell you that they disagree. Here's that tricky part. It gets reinforced. People pleasing often works in the short term. When neurodivergent kids people please, adults do respond more positively because it's easier for them. It's easier for us, right? Whether we're parents or teachers or therapists. Peers may include them more, at least temporarily. Conflict is avoided. Praise increases. So their brains learn that people pleasing keeps me safe. But that cost is high and it will show up. I want to talk again about why this is so unsafe. Number one, this loss of self-trust. So kids stop checking in with themselves and then they're just constantly scanning for others. How's everyone else doing? How are they feeling? How does their face look? Do they look mad at me? What if they're upset with me? What am I going to do? They don't even consider how they're doing because they are so busy trying to figure out how to make everyone else okay. And this leads to number two, this chronic exhaustion, burnout, saying yes when their nervous system is already overwhelmed, saying yes when they don't feel right about something, when there's guts telling them, I don't want this, I feel uncomfortable, and they say yes anyway. And this can show up in more meltdowns, more shutdowns, and definitely more anxiety. Number three, uneven and harmful friendships. People pleasing often creates friendships where one child is doing most all of the effort. It is not at all balanced. Now, of course, in friendship, one person may have something happening for them and it's about them a little bit more, and then it may change over to the other friend. But I'm talking about a consistent pattern where one child, typically the neurodivergent child, is putting in most of the effort and also considering they're probably exhausted. They don't have anything left, yet they're still pushing through. They're still trying to show up. They're still trying to do so much just to keep this friendship going. Another thing I see in these harmful friendships is boundaries are not respected. And then the neurodivergent child, their needs go unmet in those friendships, but they just get used to it. They think that they just should be happy that even someone is a friend to them. They're going to show up and do whatever it takes to maintain that friendship. They're not going to do anything to question it. They're not going to want to say, this doesn't seem fair to me, because then that friend might pull away. And then what? Now, I would say the most dangerous part of people pleasing is the increased risk of abuse. Autistic and ADHD children, they are already at higher risk for abuse. When they feel like they cannot say no, that risk just skyrockets. So children who are taught that compliance equals safety are way more vulnerable to emotional manipulation, coercion, all kinds of unsafe situations. A child who does not believe they're allowed to say no is a child who can be pressured basically into anything. Teaching boundaries does not create selfishness. It doesn't create selfish children. It creates safer children. So how do we do this, right? How do we either slow down that people pleasing, because we don't want that for our kids, or how do we avoid all this from happening? Number one, I would say model capacity out loud. Let them see how decisions are made that don't really have anything to do with them. For example, I was asked to host this meeting, and my first thought was to say yes because I was worried I was going to upset someone. But then I stopped and I checked in with myself and noticed that I was really tired and I didn't have enough time. So I said, thank you for asking, but I actually don't have the energy to do that right now. It may feel a little strange to say that out loud, but I will tell you, this can actually be really helpful for you too. Number two, use visuals for capacity. Maybe a 1 to 10 energy scale. Writing out tasks if you're going to do that and then ranking them. Like, what is the most important thing? If I only have this much energy, what is the number one thing I need to do? If I could only pick one because I only have enough energy for one thing. Showing how adding one more thing changes the whole picture. For example, say you're building this block tower and the whole thing falls apart. There's too much on it. There's too much weight on it. These types of things, they build self-awareness, not avoidance. Another thing we could do to help them, believe them when they say, this is my limit. This is really hard. As someone who struggles with people pleasing, I have pushed through and kept pushing through all my life, way past limits. We say we want kids to communicate their needs, but when they do, we say things like, you should be able to handle this. It's not that big of a deal. It's not that much. You'll be fine. If their nervous system says they're at capacity, that information matters. I see this happen all the time, and you may even be doing this to yourself. Again, I struggle with this, and I am trying so hard to not live like that anymore. We don't want to teach our kids that they should push through. That's not good for their mental health or their physical health. People pleasing is not a personality trait. In society, talk about it like it is. We say, oh, they put everyone before themselves, like it's something that's good. It's not. It's a survival strategy. A neurodivergent kid deserves more than to just survive. They deserve safety. They deserve to be able to trust themselves, to understand what they need. They deserve to have relationships where they don't have to be a completely different person in order to feel safe or to feel loved, to feel like they belong. If this episode was meaningful to you, if you were supported by this information, please share it with someone, another parent, an educator, a therapist, someone who cares for autistic and ADHD kids. The more we can get information out, the better, because these conversations matter. And I'm honored that we can have them together. Take care. If you found this podcast helpful, I greatly appreciate it if you could take a second to give it a 5-star review. With your positive feedback, I can continue bringing you free, valuable information. As an extra thanks to you for sticking around, there are special gifts waiting for you in the show notes. You'll find links to free resources on supporting neurodivergent kids and teens with social interaction, emotional regulation, and more. So come on down to the show notes and get your free resources. Take care, and I look forward to seeing you next time.
All content provided is protected under applicable copyright, patent, trademark, and other proprietary rights. All content is provided for informational and educational purposes only. No content is intended to be a substitute for professional medical or psychological diagnosis, advice, or treatment. Information provided does not create an agreement for service between Holly Blanc Moses Crossvine Clinical Group, the interviewee, Holly Blanc Moses LLC, and the recipient. Consult your physician regarding the applicability of any opinions or recommendations with respect to your symptoms or medical condition or the symptoms or medical condition of your family member. Children or adults who show signs of dangerous behavior toward themselves and/or others should be placed immediately under the care of a qualified professional.